Okay, welcome back to the part 2 of this video. So let's go ahead and continue. So let me go ahead and hide these panels real quick. Okay, so go ahead and write that down while I do this. Okay, awesome. So the next thing that I want you to know is that oftentimes they won't give you the angle per se, but you can still identify where the function will exist. So I want you to go ahead and look at this real quick. So this right here is a way of finding out where each function exists. So we call this, well, I like to call this, or the way I learned this was all students take calculus. Okay, so what does that really mean? Well, it's a fun fact, just kidding. No, what that means is that all the 6 trig functions in quadrant 1, let's go ahead and recall our quadrants: quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. In quadrant 1, everything, all six trig functions, so sine, cosine, tangent, and the reciprocals will be positive. Okay, now that's cool, right? We go ahead and look at quadrant number 1. We plot a point, and for the x is positive, for the y's is positive. Everything's good, right? Let's look at my s on quadrant 2. So this right here is telling you that sine and cosecant are positive. That means everything else, like cosine, tangent, and the reciprocals, are negative. And hopefully that makes sense. Everything here, my x's are negative and my y's are positive. So we can go ahead and see that right here is, sorry, I got blanked out. So and right here, S stands for sine and its reciprocal, cosecant, are positive. Everything else, like cosine and tangent, are negative. Okay, so go ahead and think about that same idea. So look at T, tangent and cotangent. That must mean these are positive. Tangent and cotangent are positive. Everything else, like let's say sine and cosine and the reciprocals, are negative. Okay, by that same idea, we can see that cosine and secant are positive, and all the other functions are negative. Sorry, I was about to sneeze. So just like I said, sine and its reciprocal, tangent and its reciprocal will be negative. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that. So go ahead and write down sorry, go ahead and write down a little trig, a little x and y coordinate. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and analyze this. Right here, we're seeing that tangent of theta, and I forgot the theta, tangent of theta is greater than 0. So this is positive, right? On the other hand, we have sine is less than 0, so it's negative. Okay, so I want you to think, referring to our all students take calculus, let's go ahead and identify these. So in the first case, tangent, where is tangent positive? So we know everything here for A is positive. So we have quadrant 1. And T means tangent is positive. So quadrant 3. So we have all positive, right? All positive. So here tangent is positive, and here tangent is positive. Okay, so easy peasy, right? Now let's look at sine. When is sine negative? Well, is sine negative here in quadrant 1? Well, we said no because everything is positive. So sine is positive here, and we don't want that. How about here? S. S is for sine, and that's telling us that sine is positive. Do we want positive? Nope, the question said negative. So for sure, not the top two. Let's check the bottom. Quadrant 3 says only tangent is positive. Everything else is negative. So for sure, quadrant 3. And the fourth quadrant says cosine, right? It's for cosine is positive. Everything else is negative. So therefore, quadrant 4 is also an option. Now, the way you go ahead and see this is you're going to go ahead and decide which one of these do they have in common. So both of them have common quadrant 3. So the answer to this question is, where would this triangle that we're going to draw exist? So the answer would be quadrant 3. Oops. Horrible. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and give number 2 a try. Okay, so we have this one right here. Cosine is greater than 0. So let me go ahead and draw another x and y. So all students take calculus. And we have the following. Cosine. Cosine is positive, and we saw that its cosine is positive in A, where everything's positive, so quadrant 1. And where else is cosine positive? Hopefully you're able to see that quadrant 4, because this is for cosine, is also positive. Okay, the next question asks, where is tangent positive? Greater than 0 positive. So tangent for sure, where tangent exists is t positive, so quadrant 3. And where else would it be? Well, it would be here in quadrant 1 because everything is positive and everything includes tangent. Just to make sure, we can go ahead and check in quadrant 2. And we have quadrant 2 is for S, for sine. So that means sine is positive and it's reciprocal. Everything else, including tangent, is negative. So hopefully you're able to see that, hey, the only option here for my answer should be the one that they have in common, and in this case would be quadrant 1. They both have it in common. So quadrant 1 is where you would draw your little triangle. Okay. Okay, so go ahead and try these next ones. Pause the video, give it a try. Alrighty, so the first one says sine is less than 0, so sine is negative, right? And cosine is positive. So let's find out. We have sine is negative, so sine is negative. Well, let's recall all students take calculus. Well, does sine exist on quadrant 1 where it's positive? I'm sorry, is sine negative? Sorry, one's negative. Is sine negative in quadrant 1? No, everything is positive, so not quadrant 1. How about quadrant 2? Well, look at that S. The S refers to sine being positive, and I don't want that. So the only ones I want are the bottom two, which is quadrant 3 and quadrant 4, because sine will be negative on these two. Okay, for my cosine, I want the positive only. So let's go ahead and find out. Is it positive on quadrant 1? It sure is, because everything is positive in quadrant 1. Where else is cosine positive? We get it right here, quadrant 4. So they both have in common, whoops, that quadrant 4 will be where you draw your little triangle to meet at the x-axis is adjacent. So here's how my little triangle would look like. Ooh, number 2 is a little bit more tougher, but it's still pretty good. You're doing the exact same thing. The only thing that I try to trick you by giving you a reciprocal. Remember, the reciprocal of cosecant is sine. So you're trying to find out where sine is positive. And cosine is negative. So go ahead and give me a try. Where should this triangle exist? Okay. So we have sine is positive. We know that in quadrant 1, all is positive. And quadrant 2, sine is positive. Quadrant 3, tangent is positive. And quadrant 4, cosine is positive. Okay. So we have that cosine is positive. I'm sorry, where am I at? Sine is positive in quadrant 1. And it's S, so quadrant 2. I can also see that cosine is negative, right? Less than 0 in everything but A and C. So quadrant 2, sine is positive, cosine is negative, and quadrant 3, tangent is positive, everything else is negative. So in this case, my answer should be quadrant 2. Okay, so we would draw our triangle here in quadrant 2, something like that. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and put it into perspective. So tangent of theta equals 5/12. Okay, tangent of theta, oops, I forgot my theta, equals 5/12. So let's go ahead and do that, and we're going to go ahead and break it down. So we're going to go ahead and see that tangent of theta is this fraction, and to me that fraction 5/12 is positive. Okay, so we're looking where tangent is positive, and sine is less than 0, it is negative. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna go ahead and do all students take calculus, and we're gonna go ahead and see that I want to go ahead and find where tangent is positive, and I know tangent is positive in quadrant. Tangent is positive in quadrant 1, right, where everything is positive, and in quadrant 3, where tangent is positive. Okay, sine is negative in only the quadrants where it's not positive, right? So A, everything's positive, so not there. S, it can't be there because that's where it's positive, so it's going to be quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. So they both have in common quadrant 3. So in quadrant 3 is where I'm going to go ahead and draw this triangle. Sorry, they scared me. Okay, so you're probably thinking, oh, well, how do I draw this? Well, keep in mind that I'm going to go ahead and use what they gave me. They told me that tangent of theta is 5/12. So I'm going to go ahead and see that tangent, from what I know from SOHCAHTOA, TOA is opposite divided by my adjacent. So in this case, I got theta right here. It's always closest to the origin. And the opposite side and the adjacent side are right here. This is a hype. So all I have to do is my opposite side is 5. My adjacent side is 12. Keep in mind, this is also a Pythagorean triple. There's a 5, 12, 13 triangle. Okay. So let's go ahead and fill this in. So we have, they want us to find sine of this right here. And we have the following. Okay, sorry about that. I almost forgot something. So keep in mind, this right here, this 12 is in the negative direction. So it's negative 12 and there's negative 15. Sorry about that. The reason for that, the reason I'm saying that is because notice how the x is to the left, so it's negative 12, this right here. So this is ideally negative 15 over negative 12, gives me a 5 over 12. Good thing I caught it right now. Sorry about that. That does not affect the 13 because even if you were to square it, you still get the 13 positive. Okay. So let's go ahead and continue. So I'm going to go ahead and find sine, which we know is opposite divided by my hypotenuse. So my answer should be negative 5 divided by negative 12 for my sine. And what am I doing? Not negative 12, negative 13. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Negative 13. Not, what am I doing? Negative 5 over 13. Okay, that was a mess. Cosine of theta. That right there will be my adjacent side, which is negative 12 divided by my 13. Okay, awesome. All right, I have one more example for us. So let's go ahead and give this one a try. My tangent of theta is negative because that fraction is negative. So my tangent is negative and my cosine is positive. So let's go ahead and figure where those two exist. So let me go ahead and draw my shape. Okay. So I have the following. I have my tangent is negative, and tangent can only be negative where it is not positive. So I know tangent is positive in T and A, so it can't be there. So it has to be negative in S and C. So quadrant 2 and quadrant 4 is where tangent is negative. Cosine, on the other hand, must be positive, and I know the positive is A, so quadrant 1, and it's C, which is quadrant 4. So they both have in common 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish this one off. They gave me tangent is negative 3/4, so tangent is TOA. Oops, I assumed it's on 3, but I'm not sure yet. And this right here is my opposite over my adjacent. So it's going to be opposite is 3, my adjacent is 4, and only one of these can keep the negative, and hopefully you're seeing that this 3 is below. right here. So this was my adjacent side. This was my opposite side. Can't write. And my hypotenuse will be the 3, 4, 5 triangle, right? This right here is my height. So all they want me to do now is find out which one of these is my sine. So my sine of this theta, which is the closest to the origin, is going to be my opposite, which is -3, divided by my hypotenuse, which is 5. Okay, for secant, hopefully I didn't mess you up too bad. Secant of theta is the reciprocal of 1 over cosine. That's the same thing. Okay, so what you can do is find cosine and get the reciprocal to find secant. So cosine in this case is 4 divided by 5 is your cosine of theta. So my cosecant, right? Whoops. My cosecant will be the reciprocal of that. So not the cosecant, secant of theta will be 5 divided by 4. Okay. And that's pretty much what we were meant to do today. I know it was a little difficult. Maybe I did run out of time, but I did go ahead and give you guys 6 practice problems. 2 of them include the point given, and 4 of them will be finding out where the triangle exists and finding those given ones. Okay. Hopefully this did help and made stuff clear. If not, I will host tutoring, and hopefully that helps out as well. Okay. As always, guys, thank you and have a good rest of your day. See you on the next time.